Lawyers, Fil-Am males are obsessed with Trump rhetoric. Fox News is a cognitively limited sexual abuse survivor who thought of the now president as a surrogate father and came to believe in an alternative reality fueled in part by Trump's attacks on his political opponents. His attorneys told a federal court on Monday, July 22nd, to settle federal crimes in March. He could face life in prison when he's sentenced on August 5th. But his federal public defender said Monday he should serve 10 years in prison followed by community supervision, as well as mental health counseling and drug treatment. His attorneys wrote in a sentencing memo filed in federal court in New York on Monday, was a Trump superfan and began to consider Democrats as not just dangerous in theory, but imminently and seriously dangerous to his personal safety. President Trump did nothing to dissuade this message, they write. Their filing cites Trump's Twitter attacks on the figures Saif targeted. Saif was a Trump fan before the reality television host ran for president, and viewed him as everything he wanted to be, self-made, successful, and a playboy, his attorneys wrote. But Saif began watching Fox News religiously, started following political news on Facebook and then threw himself into Trump's campaign when he announced his candidacy because he came to view Trump as a personal champion, someone who had helped him through the most difficult periods of his life and who could do the same for other people across the country. With his use of steroids, they said, he became paranoid and delusional about the false news stories that clogged his social media feed. Because of his cognitive limitations and mental illness, he believed outlandish reports in the news and on social media, which increasingly made him unhinged. He became obsessed with attacks from those he perceived as Trump's enemies. He believed stories shared on Facebook that Trump supporters were being beaten in the streets. He came to believe that he was being personally targeted for supporting Trump. Mr. Saif thought that anti-Trump forces were trying to hurt him and they were to blame when his fan was vandalized. They wrote. A rational observer may have brushed off Trump's tweets as hyperbole, but Mr. Saif took them to heart, according to Saif's attorneys. Said Saif should spend the rest of his life behind bars. To tone down his rhetoric. Our political leaders, like our President Donald Trump, need to recognize that there are many sick people in this country who take their rhetoric and words of war with the media and war with the Democrats to heart, Madeleine Saif said in a statement last year. Americans were about roughly equally divided on whether Trump's rhetoric deserved some blame for Saif's actions. About Red. Ilhan Omar, D-Mig. The FBI concluded that the pipe-bomb Saif mails were not operational, and his attorneys argued that Saif did not intend for them to work. His attorneys say he's deeply sorry for his crimes and that a 10-year sentence would be appropriate. Mr. Saif is a broken man who committed these offenses in the throes of a steroid-induced psychosis. He has no history of similarly violent conduct. He recognizes that his actions were irrational and wrong, they write. Saif's attorneys wrote that their client was pushed to the margins of society by a series of traumatic events. There were learning disabilities, childhood sexual abuse, estrangement from his family and his drug dependency. Then he lost everything in the Great Recession. By 2018, he was living alone in a decrepit and cramped van that has been his home for more than a decade. A typical day saw Mr. Saif waking up in his van, showering at the gym, and cooking crock-pot meals while inside the DJ booth of a strip club before heading off to his second job delivering pizzas. As he grew older and more isolated, excessive steroid use increased his feelings of anxiety and paranoia. In this darkness, they wrote, Mr. Saif found light in Donald J. Trump. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.